Hello.
And welcome to the Back to Baseline midpoint event. This is a really exciting part of the project. We're halfway through Back to Baseline, so today we're sharing our insights across the thematic areas.
We're coming together as a team to report on progress, to see how we're doing in providing an evidence-based scientific overview of our progress towards sustainability and circularity in the industry.
Yeah, so our workshop is very much from the perspective of industry. So we're going to use future scenarios. So that's where we're looking to the future to think about possible legislation and policy that may come in that would impact fashion and textiles in terms of how much they can produce using recycled content and what happens at end of life. So really it's around kind of the data sources, the measurements, and what we really understand about flow of materials and environmental impacts, not just in the UK, but Europe and globally. And how kind of fashion and textiles industry can take responsibility for what they're producing and how they deal with it across its life cycle and the end of life.
So I've been working in thematic area 2, looking at eco-credentials and mapping these eco-credentials, the ones that are used within the UK fashion and textile industry. All the numbers we hear about the impact, the environmental impacts of the fashion industry, the numbers do not add up. So that's what thematic area 1 has been working on. And what I'm hoping to do is to bring the TA1 and the TA2 together and kind of set a baseline of the fashion and textile industry for the UK, and also look at how we can make these eco-labels and the eco-credentials better or more efficient.
We're looking at innovations in circularity, sustainability, fashion, textiles and technology. We've done a big literature review, so we're looking at agricultural waste, water, chemicals, dyeing, life cycle analysis, natural materials, synthetics. So it's a huge area, and I think that's one of the main things that's coming out of what we've become to realise, as many of the thematic areas have, is how big the scope is for what we're looking at. So we're now looking at case studies, and we're picking apart the details. Been looking at definitions that are used in the fashion and textile industry in relation to circularity and sustainability. It's hundreds, so we're picking that apart as well. We'd actually selected 5 projects, but we didn't have time to do all of them, so we did 3. One was a raw material innovation with agricultural waste and assembly. 2 projects from them, Pina Yarn and Pina Tex, which is a leather substitute. The Pina yarn speaks for itself, but it's all from pineapple leaf waste. The second one we looked at was Project Plan B, which the school uniform project, where every element, every material component in the garment is polyester, so it's easily recyclable. And everyone really engaged with all of the sort of debate about, to what extent, and is this good? But people rewear school uniforms, pass them down to children. And then the third one we looked at was Ecolux, where they recover from several row tailors the cut-off pieces of wool and cashmere fabric, and they're repurposed, so they're respun and then rewoven and made into garments. And everyone was fantastic and really engaged. We got some great information from that, which we wanted.
So thematic area 4 is looking at skills, circular and sustainable fashion and textile skills across industry, education and consumers. And obviously they unpack lots of different sort of questions about the skills that are needed and making sure that those are aligned, particularly between education and industry. There are lots of skills challenges in the sector to do with an ageing workforce, and there is a conflation between what is needed across what's needed now and what's needed for a kind of more mid-term and long-term future, and we're kind of really trying to focus on that mid and long-term future. One of the areas that skills is considering is consumers, so we're working with thematic area 5 who looking at consumer behaviour and culture. So we're going to work with a very small group of industry people today, really, to kind of ask them questions about skills need and consumer change needs, across kind of industry sectors of people who are represented here today, which are mainly manufacturers.
So my thematic area is looking at understanding behaviours and cultures of consumers and organisations, and thinking about that in the context of circularity, fashion and textiles. Well, we're really looking at what are the baselines of our understanding in terms of behaviours and attitudes of consumers. What do we already know, but also where are the gaps and what are the gaps? And also the same for organisations. So actually as a thematic area is really huge, and you're thinking about two quite different kind of challenges really. Tackling consumer behaviours and attitudes is really quite different to thinking about it in an organisational or business context.
Today's event has been really useful. It's been great for me as a project manager to network with everybody. It's good for me to know everybody on the different networks.
It's just been really good to hear the progress from everyone. I think what's become apparent to me is making sure that citizens are at the heart of the design of the system that we're trying to change. If it works for people, I think it's going to work for the sector.
Days like today are very useful, especially since this is a big project. There's so many thematic areas, there's so many parts of the projects working throughout the UK. So just meeting, hearing what everyone's up to is very useful.
I think it's a really great opportunity for us to connect with the other thematic areas. We actually have a lot of the same kind of challenges around the huge vastness of the research that we're looking at. We have a lot of the same challenges around the complexity of the landscape of circularity. So it's a great opportunity for us to connect across all of the thematic areas of the project, but also to connect with the industry, because we can't do this alone. There is a need for us in academia to be connected with the industry to be able to solve this grand challenge.